The first face-to-face talks between NATO and Russia in 2 years are underway in Brussels as they try to diffuse tensions over Russian troops massed on the Ukrainian border. Let's show you the moment the two sides arrived for that meeting, with generals and diplomats rubbing shoulders as they prepared to sit around the table. Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister has described it as a moment of truth in relations between them. NATO members have repeatedly said they won't accept Russian demands, which include a halt to any eastward expansion of the alliance. For more on how people in Ukraine feel about those talks, I've been speaking to my colleague Zena Badawi. She's in Kiev.
If you look at social media, there are bubbles of people talking about, have you got your packed suitcase with the right things? Do you know where your nearest bomb shelter is? But these are just bubbles in social media. On the whole, people don't expect the Russians to invade. They think they could, but they don't expect them to. So there are these kind of macabre jokes going around. Ukrainian TV, you turn it on, it's just full of nothing else but these NATO talks. So that's the mood here. What does official Ukraine think? Well, we heard there in Paul Adams' piece about the Deputy Prime Minister, Olha Stefanishina, who says that she's seeking solidarity. The government wants solidarity from NATO. And they are also very annoyed that they're not involved in these talks. How can you discuss Ukraine without the principal guest being there? The Russian invasion, it's on the border here, 800 kilometres away in eastern Ukraine. So that's what they're seeking. And the fundamental thing is this is not just about NATO membership, possible NATO membership for Ukraine, because nobody's talking about that yet. It's about Ukraine's sovereignty and its territorial integrity, which the Americans say they support. That is what this is about. The Ukrainians want the freedom to choose which alliance they want to be a member of. Let's go to Warsaw now to talk to Michal Baranowski, who's from the think tank, the German Marshall Fund. So, look, the Americans are saying that their priority is to de-escalate the tensions on the border here with Russia, and yet they don't want to accept Russia's red line that Ukraine should not ever become a member of NATO in the future. How problematic is that going to be?
Well, it's going to be very problematic because Russia is negotiating at with a barrel of a gun to Ukraine. So even though Americans are saying that their priority is to de-escalate, fortunately, and I would say really fortunately, the main priority for the US side and today in negotiations between the whole of NATO and Russia is to make sure that we don't give in on the key principles underlying and supporting the European security system. As your colleagues have been saying, this is not only about Ukraine. It's really about peace in Europe. It's about Central and Eastern Europe. And the most important is that we keep firm on these principles. And that's what I'm seeing right now, fortunately.
All right. So listen, we're all bandying around these two words, Russian invasion, Russian invasion. Could they come into Ukraine? What actually could constitute a Russian invasion? And of course, the Russians say, no, we're not thinking about that. But they have said this interesting phrase, we would look to military technical solutions. So what could Russia actually do militarily?
Absolutely. There is a variety of possible scenarios. None of the scenarios are pleasant, and they are full of danger, not only for Ukraine and the West, but also we have to remember that this will be very costly for Russia, both because of the Western response, but also in case of actually military incursion, Ukraine will fight and Russian forces will suffer. But it can be a variety of scenarios. At the lowest end, we could see, for example, a massive cyber attack. At the higher end, which would be already military and kinetic, we could see, for example, an attack by using missiles and rockets on Ukrainian positions. And of course, the biggest caliber of an attack could be actual armed invasion in East Ukraine or actually also north from Belarus toward Kiev. But again, this would be also very, very costly for Russia.
Sure, and people talk about cyber warfare, which it could also do. But so does NATO actually want Ukraine? I mean, I know that they've got, cooperation with them and so on, and it's a national goal for Ukraine to join NATO. But does NATO actually want Ukraine to join? Because, I mean, it's a difficulty, isn't it? They've got this ongoing conflict on the border with Russia.
No, it's an excellent question, and there is really a very clear answer to it. The clear answer is that in the short term, no one is talking about an immediate membership of Ukraine in NATO. So what the Russian side is saying that they are worried about is just non-existent. This is why this is a false argument. Of course, over time, Ukraine has the right as a democratic country to choose their alliances. And if they are ready and provide additional security to the alliance, and they want to join the alliance is in a position to then choose whether to admit Ukraine or not. Again, we are very far from it, from this position. And as of right now, to answer it very quickly and bluntly, right now, the alliance is not ready to admit Ukraine. NATO is not ready to invite Ukraine to NATO at this point.
Yeah, thanks very much indeed, Michal Baranovsky there from the German Marshall Fund in Warsaw. So there you have it. To the west lies Poland from Ukraine, and the government here, and I would say pretty much all the people, are orientated towards the West. Opinion polls consistently show Ukrainians do want to join NATO, the European Union as well, but that's a much more distant ambition. But you just heard what Michal Baranovsky said there, that perhaps even joining NATO is a long way off.
Zainab Badawi there in Kiev, who will be with us throughout the day here on BBC World News.